Eu convido agora o Leonardo Ortega, que é responsável pelo projeto Trabalhe na Estônia, e ele vai falar sobre os elementos-chave do soft power presentes em lugares empoderados e como atrair e reter talentos e negócios nesses lugares. Bem-vindo, Leonardo. Muito obrigada. Palmas para o Leonardo, gente. E a palestra do Leonardo também será em inglês. Então, se alguém chegou depois e precisa de apoio para poder acompanhar, basta ir até ali a saída e pedir o equipamento, tá bem? Fique à vontade.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for Casa Firjan for inviting. Estonia's perspective here from far away. And then, yes, I thought in English would be better than Portuñol, because otherwise maybe I might have said something wrong. But today's discussion is going to be focusing a bit more on how to empower places. So maybe taking a bit from the previous presentations and also from the workshop I did yesterday. How can we give the tools? And then I was giving kind of two different target audiences. Some are interested in attracting talents, and some others are interested in attracting businesses or startups. So maybe also there can be something that we can find in common to attract those two. But the very first question that I always can try to make, and also when we do any activities, when it comes to talent attraction or any sort of attraction and retention efforts, is the why. Why are we doing it, right? And I think for this presentation, then I asked the question, why are we talking about it? So why it also, like today, soft power, empowering places, attraction, retention, why is the topic? And then there's kind of three different key things that I realized. The very first one was that, well, definitely the borders are like shrinking way more, you know? We have a global market, we have a global kind of talent pool that we are all like trying to get a piece of. And then because also technology is bridging us, technology is bringing us together, then the different borders between those countries, between regions, etc., are getting like thinner and thinner and thinner. And thus, we are not alone anymore, right? And because we want to get a piece of it and we don't want to be left outside, then we are in need of, so how do we differentiate ourselves from the others? How do we try to, get that little piece of the cake in this global workforce? And then when we talk about talent, we also see that the workforce is evolving. Yesterday at the workshop, I was also telling about how, for example, when people from different generations are going to work, when we're talking a Generation Z, like newest generation, let's say, they usually go to work like, they just wake up, put a cup of coffee, and then stay and, open their computer and start working at home. Whether us, for example, baby boomers or like previous, they wake up at 7 in the morning and started going to, put their best clothes and start going to work. And then you have different expectations. So how do you attract, the things that, the people that were working before, the workforce, it's nowadays different. So how do you attract? You cannot use the same concepts in order to attract those people. So that's also one of the things that we need to do, right? Understand how is the different generations growing in order to attract them. And then the third one, which is very much linked to the very first one, is that because of the borders are getting thinner and thinner, then we see a lot that the competition is growing, right? Before we were trying to get the people that was around our neighborhoods, around our area, around our region, but nowadays we can see that those people are being attracted by other companies. For example, the United States taking a lot of people from Mexico, like Finland is taking a lot of people from Estonia, and so we are not anymore like in the sense that, safe in our space where we can get those people, they will come because they are very close, but actually people have more choices nowadays. Businesses have more choices nowadays where they can actually go and they will actually set up shop, etc. So what is it gonna make that they're gonna choose us over them, right? What's it gonna make that they're gonna come over here? What is it gonna make that the business is gonna set up here? So those are the questions that are nowadays like very much in line, kind of in the minds of everyone. And we're talking about companies, we're talking about cities, we're talking about regions, we're talking about countries. So that is why we're having this conversation today. And to illustrate a bit more, like I'm gonna talk it first from what I do, right? I'm the head of the Work in Estonia program, as we discussed. And then there's two things that we do at the Work in Estonia program, which is a government-funded organization. So I'm going to talk from this perspective. The very first thing is that we try to help companies because we want them to grow in order to leave like kind of the monetary side, tax revenue to the country, and we want them to grow. And then the companies, in order to grow, they need human talent, right? They need human resources, so we help them attract those talents from different sides of the world, particularly in ICT and engineering sectors, in order for them to continue that growth. And on the other side, we want those international talents to realize that Estonia is one destination where they can go and develop themselves professionally. And we just, do these two things kind of on like two levels, right? And we have, when we started like 8 years ago with this program, there was other countries who were doing this before, right? We had Finland, we have Denmark, we have the Netherlands, who had already been attracting international talent, where people, when you think about going internationally, you thought about the US and Netherlands, Denmark. So we said, how do we position ourselves? And we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. That's one of the things that was mentioned before. We can take the best practices from other countries and then adapt them to the context that we have. And so we took the Danish model of talent attraction policy. And it's 4 different stages. The very first one is attraction. So we try to promote Estonia as a working destination for working and for living. So we make them sure that if they're thinking about going abroad to work, then Estonia might be a place where they can do it. Then once they made the decision and they come over to Estonia, then reception, right? You're trying to get people to like have a soft landing to understand where they are. And so they don't have any problems and they can focus on the thing that they actually want to do, which is working in Estonia. And that's the first year, mostly. After that, if people like it, then perhaps they want to learn the language. They are worried about like double taxation, so they want to understand that system. What about their pensions? If they're having kids, can they get married? Can they bring their parents? So all these like longer things that they need to adapt and to live a complete full life. Then also offering some support in that age. And if you do the first, the second, and the third stage properly, then the fourth stage, reputation, the soft power, this will on its own take flight. So if a person was planning to stay maybe 1 year, perhaps they will stay 2 years. If a person was just thinking of inviting somebody, then they will call their peers and they will say, like, hey, Estonia is a very good destination. Perhaps they will become ambassadors to your brand, to your company, to your city, to your country. And then if that goes well, then that on its own, it's a form of attraction. And it's a cycle. And so that's the model that we adapted. And if you look at it very closely, then this is not only about a country, right? Every company has its own people strategy. Every company tries to attract people to work them. They try to onboard them. Then they try to upskill them, maintain them in the company. And then nowadays we're calling that what? Employer branding. So that is one of the things that you can draw like parallels between the, we're talking about countries, cities, or regions. But this is what we do at the Work in Estonia program. And this is one way of looking at this. So when we focus on talent attraction, then there are three different things that I would like to focus on. The first one, kind of the most important one that I think, is setting and managing the expectations. So one of the very things when we do about marketing is not only talking about the things that we would like them to have, that we would like them to know about us, but actually we have to talk about the things that we have in order to, whenever they come and they're trying to, see those things, that they can actually experience this. Because when we talk about talent attraction, when we're talking about empowering places, the worst thing that you can do, one of the worst things, is that you talk about something, you sell something, and then when that person, that company, it's arriving to that place, they don't get that experience. And then you have a negative kind of experience, and then you have a negative reputation, and that's probably what it costs the most. And not only in monetary things, but actually it costs most to undo that negative reputation. The second thing that you will need to do is to work on the value proposition, right? Once you identify what is those expectations that the people have, that the companies have, then you need to help those, market them, package them, and then create this value proposition in order to sell whatever you are trying to sell, whether it's trying to attract deep tech sector companies, whether it's trying to attract more tourists, whether it's trying to improve some different policies. But then you have to break it down to the core of what is the message, what is the different values, what is the, and packages into this value proposition in order to be able to sell it. And then the third one is talent knows no borders. And this one I have already mentioned, that nowadays when companies are looking abroad, they really don't think about, you know, which type of, am I going to need a person from Portugal, or I'm going to need a person from Spain. They actually need skills, they need knowledge, they need problem solving. And those things, they also know no borders, right? A person from here, a person from Mexico, a person from India, like they have many different approaches. And the company does only need how to solve a problem, how to create a product, how to develop a product. So when we talk about talent attraction, that's one of the things that we focus on, that there's no difference between like the talents, so we only need the skills. And when we come to talent attraction, those are the kind of like three main things that we focus on. And one of the other things that we do is that we don't do these things separately, because before there was perhaps only talk about attraction, but as kind of one of the key, you know, very old sayings says that it's not the most difficult thing to arrive to the top, right? The thing is to keep yourself on the top. And that is the same when we're talking about attraction. Once you get people to come and work for your company, once you get the startups to come and set up shop in your country, then it's not the most difficult thing. Once they are there, is to keep them happy there, to keep them like developing themselves in order to attract more businesses, more talents, and so on. So again, the very first point would be that the expectations that you actually sell to those people, to those companies, that it will be transformed into their reality. And this is one of the things that, that we would like to stress. And when we're talking about soft power, empowering places, that it does not only have to remain in the marketing materials, it only has to remain in the theory, but it actually has to be the reality of it, right? When we were talking yesterday about the customer journey, like we are talking about like very specific points within that customer journey that we need to fix. Let's say one of the things that we have a problem here in Estonia. When people come to work, it's difficult to find doctors, family doctors that speak English, right? So if we don't fix that, you know, then there are going to be problems. And if we say, like, you know, you're going to have a nice life here in Estonia, but you can't get a family doctor, then there's a dissonance, right? So we actually need to fix those problems. And once we fix those problems, then the expectation will meet that reality, right? The second one is onboarding and upskilling. And then when we talk about retention, one of the trends that we see more and more globally in the workforce is that people are more interested in not only in develop themselves professionally, but actually they are more interested in developing themselves, period. That includes personal development, that includes professional development. That does not necessarily mean always going up the ladder, but it just means fulfillment of the person, right? And so if we want to attract talent in that sense, then we need to help the companies understand that, and also give the companies the tool for they can keep those persons, you know, happy, upskilled, that they can develop themselves professionally. And it doesn't necessarily mean that those persons are going to leave the company, right? Because that is one of the fears that people have, maybe even countries, like if we give them too many tools, if we give them a lot of like power, then perhaps they will start their own business, there will be competition, etc. Yes, that happens sometimes. But nowadays, many people actually are just looking for that like self-development, and they just want to learn more things. They want to know what they're capable of. They want to have fulfillment. They want to, you know, feel themselves value. So that is one of the things that if you are trying to retain people, then that is one of the things that you should look towards. And then the third one is the engagement of the people, right? Like, as I mentioned, like people need to feel valued. And one of the other trends that we have seen is that collaboration, specifically after COVID, you know, people stay behind the screens. People were like living with a 2-3 meter distance between each other. And after that kind of started like coming back to normal life, then people are trying to like, among those many different philosophical questions, they're really trying to connect to each other, right? To have this empathy. And how do you have the empathy, but how do you can put it to work? So that is one of the things that also employers need to put attention. And that's one of the things as a government institution that we try to help the companies understand, that the employee needs to be engaged, right? You need to include all of them across, not only like on your team, but actually you try to avoid those silos, avoid these little columns that you have between the companies, and make the teams work together horizontally, vertically, in order to have a holistic approach, because that is one of the things that maybe sometimes we don't put attention, that if we're talking about innovation in business, then we stay very much in the focus of innovation in business. But we're not talking only about business, because business is connected with the area that we are, with the community. The community, it's about people themselves, so we have to connect with the people. So all of it is very much well interconnected, and then we need to engage all those parts in as much as we can. So those are the things that we do mostly when it comes to talent attraction. But as I mentioned from the model, that one is the same that you can copy to business. So for example, if we talk business attraction, it's kind of the same thing, right? If we're trying to attract foreign direct investments, if we're trying to attract startups, we're trying to attract companies, then we also have to set them up, manage their expectations. We have to prepare a value proposition. Yes, it's going to be different from a person, right? Because a company perhaps is more interested in what is going to be the tax revenue, what is going to be the tax costs, etc. But still, they also like need the value proposition. And when we talk about global workforce, then we can talk about global marketplace, right? Because it's not only now anymore like about region, but it's about like the whole country, the whole globe. And it's the same about retention, right? You got also to know that the expectation meets the reality. You don't only focus on the part of attracting the business, but you actually try to make it grow in your region, in your country, right? You try to not only help at the startup part, but perhaps at the scale-up part as well, once they turn like a bigger company. And also when we talk about personal engagement, then on the other hand, we have a business engagement, right? You don't want to have the company that is only there in your country and not engaging with the whole community, right? Engaging in the different activities that we have, perhaps doing cooperation with Firjan, etc. So when we talk about like the attraction and retention of talents, then we can extrapolate some of these things into attraction and retention of businesses, attraction and retention of tourists, attraction and retention of startups. And so because a place kind of, if we take it on the big side of the things, it's not only, I'm not talking about only government, but I'm talking about institutions and cities, countries, regions. And when before, perhaps like 10 years ago, countries were the ones that having this branding, right? Now it's more and more like cities. Within cities, you have different regions, you have different communities that are developing their own brand, that are also wanting to find, with this much noise around us, they want to find their own identity, they want to find their own value proposition in order to continue themselves developing. And so overall, what we need to do, how to empower places, is we need to take a look at the full user experience, right? And I also touched on this point yesterday on my workshop. And the user experience is basically identifying the whole kind of path that your customer, your target audience, is going to have from the very beginning to the very end. And for example, when we talk talent attraction, it doesn't start the moment the person moves, let's say, to Estonia, but it actually starts like 1 year before, and this is, we have mapped it out, when they start thinking about like, hey, maybe I need something different in my life. Maybe I would like to have more experience. I would like to experience something different, develop myself professionally. And so, for example, we tell the companies that, it's not only about offering a position at the company, but actually it's 8 months, 1 year before, telling them about the different options that they have, what is the environment in Estonia, how is it the culture, what is the nature over there, and so on and so forth. So mapping out this whole user experience is what we need. And when we talk about user experience, again, like, they don't act independently. When we talk about talents, when we talk about regions, when we talk about countries, they all work very much in synergy. I took the kind of one example. Probably everybody knows Ericsson. So Ericsson, a big company, multinational, and so it's a company. What do? They have in order to attract and retain their talent, in order to empower their kind of community, they offer different flexibility, working from home. They have a very relaxed work culture. They have, I don't know, like a different gift packs with Ericsson on it. They offer several benefits, and they have their own cultural values of the company. But when we talk about region, then they set up in one place of the city, in the capital of Estonia, Tallinn, which is Ülemiste city. And this is a place that kind of is a business district, but it's a very unique business district because it also has many community events. It also gets involved in transforming the whole place more like green, more ecological, uses digital solutions and stuff. So the surroundings are supporting those values that the company wants to reflect. And this business district is supporting them, and that's why they chose to be there, right? And then when we talk about a country, then also what did the country do in order for having Ericsson there? Then they set up their regulatory framework, make it easy for them to set up shop. They have working services, digital services, for example, that they can use. They have infrastructure and so on. They have a country branding, and then they have different supportive schemes and measures. Perhaps when Ericsson came, there was a support, and so on and so forth. So we see that from the very small kind of part to the very big part, there has to be in each of these stages something that will support those companies, people, regions, in order to support like the full environment of how it is working fully. And if you have the full environment working like together, so in this case Estonia, Tallinn, the city district of Ülemiste city, then you have a better synergy, and then we will be able to attract more of the talents, more of the cities, more of the businesses that we are looking forward. And so when we talk about empowering places, kind of like taking this, narrow it down a bit more, one of the first things we need to do is to provide, at the government level, for example, provide with the tools and networks to become better at this, right? For example, the different tools on one side can be different support schemes, measures. On the other side, for example, we have our marketing website, and I will give an example of how Estonia does this. But the second, and I think very much important, is receiving and providing the feedback, right? Because it's not only about like doing things and then thinking like, okay, we have done it, it works, but actually we need to get the feedback. Is it working? If it's not working, then we need to get back at the drawing table and start again like doing this stuff. So, and feedback, I think, is one of the things that we usually don't do that much, and especially when we're talking about like, when we ask the feedback, then it's also not on acknowledging it, but it's actually putting it to work, right? And that is one of the things that it is also very important when it comes to empowering places. It's unfortunately like a trial and error thing. And then third, and probably also very much important, is creating the common understanding, because at the very end, we are all trying to get the same thing, right? In RIO, we want to have a nice and healthy life, for example. So it doesn't matter if you are from one business or another business, from the area of engineering or from the area of ICT, but at the very end, we all want. And so finding this common ground in order to, again, work together towards this common goal, that is what will help us unite the efforts of everyone. So that is also one thing that I would definitely much stress on. So how do we create the environment in order to empower the places? And I think these discussions are definitely one of the first things to do. Many people probably don't think about it, but just starting the conversation, whether it's at your company, at your region, at your city, about empowering the place. How can we make this place better? If we're trying to attract, new policies, new environments, new projects, then just starting the conversation is the very first thing. And that's what actually many companies, many organizations fail to do. And then the second thing that they fail to do is once they started the conversation, then somebody says like, yes, you can deal with empowering the place. You can deal with the attraction and retention policies, but there is no real strategy behind it. So that is the other thing you have. It has to be also taken seriously. It has to be a strategic decision that we're going to work on this policy that will be on attraction, that will be on reception, that will be on empowering the place, and not only staying on the conversation level. And then the third one, that the involvement has to be not only from top to bottom, not only from bottom to top, but actually I believe it has to be on a horizontal level, right? You get the different communities, you get the different people, you get the different organizations that are working at different levels to work together towards that common goal. And that is one of the things that that you can do. And so I think now, what are kind of the best practices that there are? Definitely having a strategy in place, as I mentioned, but then also with some important like key performance indicators. For example, how do you measure the success? Again, feedback is one of the important things, but then there has to be other reasons. And when we talk about empowerment, yes, soft power sometimes also can have these like very specific things that you can grasp with your hand that will help you measure whether it's whether it's working or not working, right? And then what has been mentioned also during this last day, the internal and external communication. You have to have storytelling, and not only for outside, not only for it, but you also need the storytelling inside. That's how you create community. And probably it's more important to start inside, getting this common goal, and then how do we externalize this? How are we going to tell our story to everybody? And this is where empathy is very important, as Glenn mentioned, because you need to have kind of the rational arguments behind it in order to create this emotional connection with the other people. And that's going to make your storytelling better. And to end up with that note, probably maybe some of you don't know where Estonia is, right? It's like, yeah, he's coming from Estonia. I'm not Estonian, I'm from Mexico, but I've been living there for 11 years. And yeah, it's a different change of scenery. This is where we are located, in Northern Europe. It's a very small place with a very small average temperature, 1.3 million people. So what is Estonia, right? What do we tell people? And this is what I'm going to present to you. It's a country effort, so a national government that worked on a national brand strategy to get the companies, people, businesses use it. So what do we tell people? What is the story of Estonia? So for example, it's a clean and untouched nature where it coexists with the world's most digitally advanced society, a place for independent minds where bright ideas meet a can-do spirit. And this is something that we can use when I'm trying to attract people. You know, a can-do spirit, then I need people to work. It's a digital advanced society that also resonates with business. Untouched nature, that is also very much in line with what the national trends we have. And what are our messages that we use? These are the 4 messages: democratic values, digital society, independent minds, clean environment. Those are the things that we talk about when we are trying to promote tourism in Estonia, when we're trying to attract direct investment. And I invite you to look at, just Google Estonia later on, and you can see in the different, whether it's for tourism, whether it's for e-residency, whether it's for other reasons, then you will see those messages one or the other way. And the success in this story is that the different organizations, public, private, and also NGOs are using this, because Estonia, again, it's a small country which doesn't have the benefit that other bigger countries that is known, right? So we have to make ourselves known. And when I say about providing tools, then we also talk about very practical tools, right? We provided with different like images, messages, colors, stuff, in order for the companies to be able to use those colors, those messages, free of charge, in order to help them be better at what they do, right? And this is kind of the empowering part of the platform. We're not only talking about the different, on a theoretical level about the things that they can do, but actually we provide them with materials, with workshops, with different ideas in order for them to be able to present themselves more, whether it's selling, well, whether it's attracting international talent, attracting international businesses, or attracting international startups. So that's it from my side. If I want to summarize it, then definitely empowerment of places is crucial for success, but it's definitely always a means to an end. We don't want to, empower the place. What we actually want is perhaps to have a better society, perhaps to have a nicer life, perhaps to have a more sustainable environment. And so empowerment, place branding, soft power, that's just also always a means to an end. Then the second one is that the changes need to be on a horizontal level, involve everybody in the environment to have a more holistic approach. And then talent attracts businesses, business attracts talent, so it's a synergy, it's a cycle. It all has to work simultaneously. Kind of, what do I do first? Where do I start? It's kind of the same, asking the same question as was it the first the chicken or first the egg? You have to do it all the time at the very same time, simultaneously. So thank you very much.